So the early aughts, the Bush era, was a lot of gloss, bubblegum pop, Britney Spears. It was TRL. That's what it felt like, and kind of sci-fi, Matrix, all of that stuff. And I think when the recession hit, millennial culture was being forged, and irony was becoming a defense mechanism during the recession, because it was this sort of balm for the class resentment that people started to feel towards boomers, towards their parents. And if you can't buy a home, for example, you can ironically dress like your dad, or you could take up the banjo, get really into whiskey. You can start drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon. That was a thing. Do you remember when that was a thing? I mean, I remember when I first moved here to DC, going to a college with a bunch of people from the East Coast, and a bunch of hipster people drinking PBR. And I was like, really? We're doing this? I'm from Wisconsin. I'm for drinking PBR, but if that's where we're going to spend our money, sure. But it really blended seamlessly into what the popular culture is today, now that I think about it. And I hadn't really thought about it until this post started to go viral, and I started to consider the point. But the big difference, I mean, this is a huge distinction, is the irony got dropped. And I think this really became clear in 2024. It was becoming clear if you weren't in elite media bubbles before. But I think 2024 is where everyone woke up and realized, yes, this trad thing has legs. This Maha thing has legs. People are actually looking back and kind of yearning for something simpler. And they have this instinct to rebel against tech. Now, again, that was sort of ironic in the millennial era, because people were posting pictures of their flannels and banjos on Facebook, a big tech company's platform that started to mine our data and become really Orwellian. So it's what's happened since has been the departure of the ironic note in all of it. And I think, if you go back and look at the Edward Sharpe video for that song, Home, which again, if you were, my age from 2010 to 2015, it's like the Charlie XCX song, I Don't Care. I love it. That one, I think that is the millennial anthem to this day. That song is just, is the anthem of those years, probably. And if you're thinking back on it, I don't care, I love it, right? There's something about it that's, it's this ironic nihilism. It's the idea of saying, I don't care, but I am at Occupy Wall Street. I don't care, but I am stoked about Barack Obama. That's what these years were kind of like. And it's interesting to look back on it and see when the irony was dropped, people ended up sort of rebelling against the left and kind of deciding that they liked SUVs or Stagecoach or the Americana aesthetic, not because it felt like, you were wearing a flannel with a man bun, right? There was this kind of ironic juxtaposition that was happening and was really popular and in vogue with millennials. And it just started to feel, for some people, hey, if this is, maybe we don't need to do this ironically. Maybe there is something really wrong with this world. And that's where I think the left has lost some support from Gen Z and from millennials. Gen Z makes fun of millennials all the time, just like millennials made fun of Gen X, and Gen X made fun of boomers. This is a tale as old as time, or at least as old as mass media made our generations so much starker and more distinct, because the mass media you consume when you're of a certain age really is distinct. So I think it's millennial cringe is looking at Taylor Swift saying things like, I don't care, I love it. And she didn't sing that song, but it was the kind of vibe that I'm just, what was the song Mean? She was like, you're alone in life and mean. Ultimately I'm going to get over this, but you're just mean. If you remember that. And it's the Edward Sharpe video is filmed this kind of vintage way for that song Home. But it's you had these people with mustaches and flannels and skinny jeans who were super into coffee and craft beer, who would, write poetry, but say, I don't really care. right? Because that ironic detachment was a way to cope with what happened during the recession when, I mean, a lot of people ended up in grad school and law school because they couldn't find jobs, taking out massive loans if they graduated from college in 2008, 2009, 2010. People were still having a hard time getting jobs, and they had been told that college was their ticket into the middle class. And there they were looking around and saying, well, when does that start for me? And so I think ironic detachment became pretty... That kind of became that was the driving force behind this millennial culture. I don't know that it was the worst cultural era in history, and I'm not just saying that for self-interested reasons. I think there was something that paved the way to where we are now. I remember when Mumford and Sons and the Lumineers first started getting really popular. There's something about that I think was a reminder. Implicitly to everyone that was also when like Avicii was really popular, right? And they were happening at the same time. And it was this, people were listening to them at the same time. It wasn't like anyone was choosing one or the other, like Dylan Goes Electric and you're on one side or the other. You're on Avicii, or you're either with Avicii or Edward Sharpe. No, it wasn't like that. But it was, I think, a reminder to people that there's a lot of truth in beauty in things beyond the kind of gloss of the world. And companies like of the tech, the higher, let's say the high tech world. And that was a lot of the aesthetic of pop music and culture in the aughts and the Bush era. And I think that's what was being reacted to by people in this era. And I do think it actually paved the way. I mean, the irony was absolutely objectionable and obnoxious. And yes, I don't take any of that back. I think that all remains true. But as I look back on it now, I think it was a pretty interesting stepping stone to people. I mean, it ultimately culminates in peak woke, capital P, capital W, because all of these people who were like on Reddit checking out of the world were also, creating their own little bubbles. But they were also like helping take down the gatekeepers unintentionally and ending up in these positions where we're looking around now and saying, we've been told so many untrue things about the world. And there's beauty and truth and simplicity and in nature and all of that. So that makes me sound a little bit like I'm doing a sort of Marxist analysis. The sort of a dialectical analysis of millennial culture creating Gen Z culture, but a little, we'll maybe re-explore that at a later date, whether or not it really is dialectical materialism. But I think that's kind of what we saw happen. That's why millennial culture feels cringe, because it was ironic and dishonest, and Gen Z culture is all about authenticity and irony, authenticity and honesty, which is why looking back at millennial culture, even though they share some aesthetics, feels cringe to Gen Z. And I think that's accurate. Over the years, I hope I've been clear about this. I'm not just pro-birth, I'm pro-life. And being pro-life, of course, means standing with mothers not only before their baby is born, but long after. And that is exactly why I partner with Preborn. Preborn is awesome. They don't just save babies, they make motherhood abundantly possible. They provide free ultrasounds and share the truth of the gospel with women in crisis. And then they stay. How great is that? With real practical help. They are there, including financial support for up to 2 years after the baby is born. I say again, how awesome is that? And here's where you can make a difference. Just $28 provides a free life-saving ultrasound. One chance for a mother to see her baby. And when she does, she is twice as likely to choose life. It is incredibly powerful. Preborn is trying to save 70,000 babies this year. This is what true Christ-centered compassion looks like, not just for the baby, but for the mother too. So don't just say you're pro-life, live it. Help save babies and support mothers today. Go to preborn.com/Emily or call 855-601-2229. That's preborn.com/Emily.